Lyle Rapacki reporting for Prescott E-News in Prescott, Arizona for Arizona Today. My guest this afternoon is Senator Sonny Borelli. Senator Borelli is the Senate whip in the Arizona legislature. It's been my privilege to work with the senator about close to 10 years. And I'm very grateful that out of his busy schedule right now, he's taken some time out to bring to us some information that's much needed about exactly what is taking place in the whole discussion on recall in Arizona. As many of you know, I was privileged to present some information where the Arizona legislature, particularly the Senate, and particularly President Fan and Senator Borelli, went ahead and issued subpoenas to the Maricopa County supervisors to go ahead and begin a forensic evaluation of all equipment, ballots, and materials related to the last election. That there's been prima facie evidence to recommend and suggest that there's some very serious issues that need to be addressed. People are frustrated because while we have done those things and reported those accurately, there does not appear to be any evidence to suggest things are taking place. So Senator Borelli has been very kind to take time out of an incredible schedule to spend some time with us today to share with us and bring us up to date as to what's taking place. Senator, thank you so very much for taking time out of which I know you don't have any time, but thank you for taking some time out with us today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for reaching out to me. It's amazing how you brought up recalls and evidence and things like this. And it's amazing right now. I've just got the word that Progress Arizona is actually trying to recall me and a bunch of other legislators. We have the audacity to respond to constituents' requests to investigate election irregularities and to ensure that the integrity of the elections are intact. So they're trying to, they're coming after us for actually investigating to make sure that the integrity of our elections are intact. So it's just crazy times that we're living in right now. But where we are right now is the Senate had a Senate hearing with the Maricopa County supervisors. And at the end of that hearing, we found that there was enough probable cause to issue subpoena to go further investigate. And we asked for a lot of things from the Maricopa County Supervisors Election Department on access to the Dominion voting system, digital copies of the ballots, ballot, signature verification, a whole bunch of stuff, a whole laundry list of things that we need to make sure that we need to investigate to make sure that the election was, number one, done right, make sure that if there's any mistakes legislatively we need to fix for the future. So, let's investigate. Let's see if there's any irregularities that we need to fix. We can identify, we can need to fix through legislation because we're in session right now. The county supervisors chose to basically thumb their nose at us, throw us in court, and challenge us on the subpoenas. Now, here is this kind of interesting as people are wanting, why is this taking so long? Well, technically, the supervisors kind of screwed up. Had they just ignored it last session before we swore in the new session, we would have actually been able to do nothing and follow through because we needed 16 votes to pass a resolution. And here we are at the end of the legislative session. Everybody's scattered, and it's hard to get anybody in there. But we already know there was a couple of no votes that were not going to actually support the resolution. I mean, so they have their reasons, even though I highly disagree with them. But obviously, we didn't have the vote. So where the supervisor screwed up is challenging us in court. Because now you just threw it in the court's jurisdiction. Perfect. Fall right into our hands. So that started it and actually exposed the obstructionists and bureaucratic resistance that we're always dealing with. So this really comes down to right now is a political subdivision is actually denying and disrespecting the state legislature. So now we're basically have a power struggle. Because what happens here is if you have a political subdivision that thumbs their nose at the state legislature, by the way, they contradicted themselves a couple of times. One reason they said, well, we can't do this. We can't do anything more than what the legislature gives us the authority to do. Remember, we were going through the ballot count system kind of thing when things were being challenged, and people wanted a deeper dive. And they said, well, we can't do anything unless the legislature authorized us to do that. So now here the legislature authorizes you to give up the equipment or information that we need to do a further investigation, find out what we need to do legislatively to fix something in the future. So now they're saying, well, you don't have the authority to do that. So they threw it into court saying we don't have the authority to subpoena and do anything, to even request for information on these kind of things, which is amazing. So you have to think about it. So what comes next? A political subdivision such as the county that says no, the legislature does not have the authority. Then a city council. What's next? A fire district? School district? Wait a minute, I know. An HOA that says the legislature has no authority over anything. Yeah, you just create anarchy. So we have this power struggle that they're trying to say no, and they have their lawyers that are fighting everything. Well, lawyers like to tend to throw things everything up against the wall, hoping something sticks that the judge will latch on to. Well, they're not prevailing. So the judge is, now we have a new legislative session. New subpoenas were reintroduced because we kind of anticipated that there's lawyers would come back and say, that was the old legislature. Those are old subpoenas. They're no good. They're moot. Well, then, of course, our lawyers said, no, there's new subpoenas that have been issued by a new chairman. Karen Fann still has standing. She's still the president of the Senate. So, therefore, this is still ongoing. Those subpoenas were issued, and right now they missed their deadline. So the judge, this past week, the judge said, look, you guys need to come to some kind of an agreement here, a resolution, or whatever you got to do to resolve this, because the legislature does have the authority to issue subpoenas. They do have the authority to investigate. So if you have a problem on surrendering certain types of information, you have to be reasonable. Senate needs to be reasonable, but I'm not going to speak for the Senate. The judge basically says what they need. So you guys need to get in a room and try to, like a settlement conference, so to speak. So this is where we are. The judge gave them a deadline. I thought it was amazing when I listened to the hearing where the opposing counsel was saying these are unreasonable, and what the judge says, well, want me to rule now, or do you want to wait till next week and have a conference? And the judge, they said, no. We'll go for the hearing next week. We'll try to work something out. So the lawyers are trying to go back and forth on what is reasonable, what's not reasonable, and what we're looking for is unconditional surrender. Period. I mean, you're not going to challenge us. You're challenging the sovereign authority of the state legislature, particularly the Senate, and we're not going to let that go. So there's a hearing set for next Wednesday, I believe, that morning, and if the court rules in our favor that the supervisors have to comply, great. If they say no, this goes back to the state legislature. Let the Senate follow through with this by passing a resolution for contempt to hold the supervisors in contempt. We're prepared to do that. We already know we're prepared to put that up on the board that afternoon. If the timing depends on how quickly the court session ends. But we're prepared on Wednesday afternoon at 1:30 when we gavel in to pass a resolution for contempt. And then it goes from there. So it just depends on how much fighting they want to do to give up something that the state legislature has the complete authority to do so. Let me rephrase it. Let me reemphasize this. The state legislature delegates authority for counties to handle and control the elections. We set the process, we set the guidelines, we give them the rules, if you will, the parameters, the right guardrail, left guardrail, everybody stay in the middle, give you the rules, and give you the procedures to do so. That's the law. They must follow the law. And we can delegate that authority, but not the overall responsibility still falls on the state legislature. And this is where we come down to. They were saying, well, no, you don't have the authority to do this. We do have the authority. We're giving you some authority. You basically have limited authority. We're telling you to execute how to handle things. We have the overall responsibility and the authority to make sure that everything was conducted properly. We have a right to do a full audit if we need to, if we see that there's enough cause to look into that. We are on uncharted territory right now, and we really never had to deal with this kind of a power struggle, but we're prepared to. We're going to stand firm on our authority, and we are going to compel whatever under the law, because listen, folks, there's a due process of law. We have to follow certain procedures and statute. We're not a mob. We follow the rule of law, and we're going to follow that. I mean, just like the court does. You have an order to appear in court. If you refuse to appear in court, the judge can say you're in contempt. Then if you don't comply, then he can issue out an arrest warrant. That's how the process works in the court system. It's basically the same thing in the legislature. We're ready to follow through with that, and we're gonna back our play 100%. So we have 100% on board with the Republican majority caucus. I'm not sure how the Democrats would vote on something like that. I would really be surprised if they voted no, because they technically would be undermining themselves, because this is not about the election. This is about what the authority of the legislature is. Are they openly challenging the sovereign authority of the state legislature? For them to vote no, they're actually undermining themselves, and they're actually betraying their own constituents, because what's the point of sending us here if you're not going to back us up? Example, excuse me. If you don't want to go to jail, don't drink and drive. Okay? If you don't want to go to jail for exhibitionist speed and reckless driving, don't do street racing. If you don't want to get a ticket for texting while driving, don't text and drive. If we're not going to back up our laws, what's the point? Why are we all here? You might as well just meet. The legislature might as well just meet and throw everything up on the election on resolutions. Let everybody vote for it. And now we got mob rule. We're beyond a representative form of government, and this is what it's all about. So I would think it's really be kind of weird if the Democrats voted no on that resolution, because they're technically undermining themselves and their constituents, because they're not even backing their own authority.
Let me share a few thoughts and a narrative, and then correct me anywhere where I'm wrong here, Senator. As you know, and graciously, by your permission and Representative Fincham, I was allowed to coordinate the joint public hearing of the legislature. Oh my gosh, 10 weeks, time fly, 11, 12 weeks ago, whatever it was. And then since that time, as you well know, we've worked with the Giuliani team and the White House and other assorted teams. With that said, now correct me and let our audience know where I may be off. We are aware that there is more than prima facie evidence to suggest that there was irregularity in Maricopa County. We also believe the same exists in Coconino and Pima County, but Maricopa County was chosen not in a punitive fashion, but because it was the largest county with the most balloting, most voting, and also what we uncovered potential fraud. Secondly, going after them was not ever your thoughts, or from my understanding, ever the thought of anyone. It was basically to get to the bottom of, was there a problem or not? Was there really irregularities or not? Was there fraud or not? If there was no fraud, then we all stand up and say so, and we go out for coffee and bagels. If there was fraud, then one of the thoughts that I understand is, how do we prevent this from occurring again? So choosing Maricopa County was not punitive on behalf of the state Senate, and also the idea here was not to go after anybody, but it was to do what you've all been elected to do, which is to safeguard our election process and our Constitution and we the people. Is anywhere in there, did I make a mistake or mislead anyone?
No, you're absolutely right. We're not trying to single out one specific, we don't have an axe to grind with one specific county. This is the largest county, and this is where we have the biggest complaints from. They use the Dominion software system, and it's been exposed all throughout the country that there's a problem with this. So we need to do a deep dive in this. We have constituents. Their biggest concern is, did my vote count? Right. Am I disenfranchised? I mean, we know that there's election fraud all over the place. It's always been going on. There's stuffed ballot boxes in other states. I mean, this is nothing new. Okay. I mean, even Texas, they arrested somebody for ballot harvesting and telling people how to vote, and that these things are all illegal. Well, when you have an illegal vote, you disenfranchise a legal voter. So we have a responsibility. This is why the legislature meets. We find a problem, we fix it. If we see we can solve it legislatively and have a law put in place, that's what we do. I mean, that's, we want to make sure that we have laws that prevent somebody from robbing somebody. So, and we would need, and of course, with that comes with punishment. So, that's what we're supposed to be doing, is to legislate to make sure that we have rules in place for things like this.
Now, in the
So
course
we're not. You're right. So we're not targeting anybody specifically
Right.
For a specific purpose. This is where the biggest complaints were. And you're right. Our constituents want to know that they have full faith and confidence in our election system, and that's our goal also, because we need to put this puppy to bed. If there is no irregularities, nothing that would overturn the election. I mean, you're going to have some people, dead people voting every once in a while. It's amazing. There's a lot of saints that come around and do that, but you're always going to have somebody going to try to cheat the system or something. But we want to make sure that it's not overwhelmingly. So let's try to put some guardrails on this. So if there's nothing wrong, let's expose that and bring confidence back to the system. We're not moving very fast for a lot of people. I agree with that. I would like to move a lot faster on this. There's certain processes that we have to go through. It's really tough when we're out of session. People are scattered all over the place. It's hard to get everybody in to vote on something. You had COVID, that was another thing. People don't want to meet in person. You got to do it via Zoom. And that's really frustrating when we're trying to do some committee stuff. So we're just trying to do our regular job. But we're not trying to target anybody or trying to single anybody out or even punish the supervisors. A lot of people want, throw them in jail. Come on, we don't want to throw anybody in jail. We just want you to give us what we need. But however, if you're going to blatantly disrespect the state legislature, that's your call. Like I said, if you don't want to speak, take it.
One of the problems we've talked about, and I know I've discussed with other elected officials in Arizona, but also across the country, we've not been down this road ever before. That I'm aware of. We've not been down this road where there's such questions, such angst about an electoral process, not only in Arizona, but in 16 other states. And so while there may have been dragging of feet, I'm going to say that, you may be grumpy at me, Senator, but while there's been some dragging of feet, I will tell you, I have told you, and I've said it publicly in a couple of presentations, you and President Fan have both done a stellar job, and I don't think the public knows this because you all don't discuss it, moving this ball down the field. And it's been very difficult within your own caucus, within the Senate, within the legislature as a whole, within the state, because in some areas this is uncharted territory, and I think other states would say the same thing. Is that an overstatement?
No, I mean, because when you involve lawyers, they're always going to, everybody go to your neutral corners and let's start fighting it out. So that's usually what happens, how things slow down. When you throw it in the system, the court system is not going to move fast. It's going to move slow. It's going to move meticulously. And Karen Fan has just been just as frustrated as I am, and some other members. And there's other members that, they're not too privy to this type of law. So, it takes education on that. But Karen Fan, let me tell you what, she's tough. And she's not going to back down. She's not going to get bullied by anybody. Trust me, I'm kind of can be very forceful at times. And, I try to flip my way around and try to do a little bit of a, psychological intimidation. And Karen Fan, it doesn't work.
For those of our listeners and followers who don't know this, Senator Borelli was a Marine for 800 years. Yeah, he doesn't look it, but he was. And he was a drill instructor. So he was...
I was not a drill instructor. I was a gunnery sergeant.
That's a Marine gunnery sergeant. Excuse me, I'll drop and do 10 after the show, Gunny. But he was a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps for 100 years, 800 years, whatever. He can be tough. I've sat in the room and we've disagreed, and it's usually a very interesting conversation, to say the least. Well, Senator, thank you so very much. I know you're under the gun and you have 100 other people waiting for you. Thanks for spending some time with us today and bringing some clarification. And I believe next week you've agreed to come back once this is done on Wednesday of next week, and we'll have some more enlightenment because we'll have a better idea where we're going.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, this is about integrity, maintaining the election integrity and maintaining the integrity of the state legislature. We will not be challenged so easily. I always say, surrender is not in our creed. So and that's the way it's going to be. So, and Karen Fann has done a heck of a job. She's one tough lady, and I really respect her. I call her coach because when I first came into the legislature in the House of Representatives, she was the chairman of the Transportation Committee. As a vice chair, she taught me a lot. We don't always agree on everything, but you know what? Like I said, if we agreed on everything, we both would be wrong. So everything, So
Thank you, Senator.
she's tough, and I really respect Karen Fann.
Thank you, Senator Borelli, very much for taking time out. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Prescott E-News, thank you, Gunny. On behalf of Prescott E-News and Prescott, Arizona, I'm Lyle Repacking. That's how I see it from Arizona today.